Hello everyone, welcome back to class. And in this week's lesson of chemistry, we will cover the topic of chemical equations and how it can be used to solve problems in chemistry. A brief introduction to what a chemical equation is. So a chemical equation is defined as the summary of a chemical reaction that happens using chemical symbols or words. And so if we were to write out a chemical equation using words, then we would call it a word equation. But if we were to write out a chemical equation using symbols or chemical symbols, then it is called a chemical equation. So there are several parts to a chemical equation, that you must write, and these parts here would actually tell a lot what a chemical reaction is, which I will explain very shortly. And in order to do so, I have borrowed a picture here from the internet. And this here shows the different parts of a chemical equation. So the first part of a chemical equation you see here would be the reactants of the chemical equation. And so the reactants are basically the chemicals that are involved in the chemical reaction itself. So the reactants that you see over here would be hydrogen, and then there is oxygen, and these two will ultimately react with each other. Now the second part of the chemical equation would be the products of a chemical equation. And so the products of the chemical equation are basically what you get out of the chemical reaction. So when the chemical reactants were to react with each other, they will form products. And in this example given in this picture over here, when hydrogen and oxygen react with each other, they are going to produce water, and therefore water will be my product. And the third thing that must be written in a chemical reaction, in a chemical equation, would be the states of matter of the chemicals in the equation. And these are written in brackets, and they are usually written in small letters, where S would represent a solid, L would represent a liquid, and G would represent a gas. Now we have also a third state that is usually written in the form of AQ, and AQ here means aqueous. And aqueous is a state where a substance is dissolved in water or to form a solution. It's when a substance dissolves in water to form a solution, then we would use the word AQ, which means aqueous. So these are basically the three main parts of a chemical reaction or a chemical equation that must be written all the time. Now, sometimes in certain chemical equations, you will notice that there are numbers that are found within the equation. Now, these numbers can either be in the form of a subscript, or they can actually be right in front of the chemical itself, and these numbers are called coefficients. So the subscript of a chemical equation would describe the number of atoms there are that makes up the chemical itself. So if we were to look at, for an example, the chemical of oxygen here, oxygen is given by the chemical formula of O2, which means that there are two oxygen atoms that are found within an oxygen molecule. The same thing would happen for hydrogen. If hydrogen is given by the formula of H2, so that means that there are two atoms that forms a molecule of hydrogen. Now, the larger number at the front, on the other hand, the coefficients actually represents the number of particles or the number of molecules that will actually take part in the chemical reaction itself. And so in this chemical reaction here, for an example, I can say that two molecules of hydrogen would react with one molecule of oxygen. For your information, that if there is no number at the front, the default number would be 1. Okay, so if I only see the word O2, that means that there is only one molecule that is involved in a chemical reaction. So two molecules of hydrogen, one molecule of oxygen would give you two molecules of water. And so now, the whole reason of why we write the coefficient at the front is to actually balance out our chemical reaction, which I will talk a little bit more about balancing chemical equations in the next lesson. Okay, and so for now, okay, it's just important to remember the different parts of the chemical equation and what they actually mean. And that is all for today's lesson. And until then, stay tuned for the next lesson. Take care.